Didn't see you there. You're just in time for a special presentation brought to you by Peer. Smart, studious, successful. These are common words used to describe the typical Asian American student. This is true especially of the students here at Penn. However, these words fail to paint the whole picture. Unique personalities are drowned out by academic achievement. And what's worse is that society has bought into these stereotypes. Stereotypes that are now known as the model minority. Wait, what is the model minority myth? That's a great question, Charlie. Let's let the peer mentees take it to the streets of LOCUST Walk and see what the students have to say.
So what is the first thing you guys think about when you hear Asian American, honestly?
Asians who are born in America, they're really smart.
Yeah.
Well-mannered.
Us, I guess.
My best friend.
Think of a culture that promotes hard work and ingenuity and musicality.
Great fun.
I don't really think anything. I mean, I had four best friends who were South Korean growing up, so I just look at them as, a fellow person or a friend or something like that.
Do you guys know what the model minority myth is?
No.
Sort of, not really though.
No, what is the model minority myth?
The model minority myth is this kind of like social idea that Asians are kind of like the advanced minority in the sense that they, adapted really and assimilated really well to American culture.
So it's kind of the idea that although Asian Americans are considered a minority, they are the better minority because just in general, we do better in school, we get better jobs, etc., etc. So then do you guys think it's a good or a bad stereotype then?
It's a good stereotype. I guess it's good to be known to do math well.
It's bad because it's not true, not pertaining to all the Asian ethnicities. So it's bad in that respect.
If you look at the stereotype, it's probably the stereotype that, Asians do better than Hispanics, who do better than blacks. But I don't think that's really applicable at all. I think that's, something we constructed based on something, trend we've seen, but I don't, especially as we move forward, I really don't think that will hold up at all.
I mean, I think that all stereotypes, though they might have a bit of a basis in truth, are inherently bad. So I'm sure that if there's an Asian student who doesn't, do as well academically as one would expect of them, they'd, probably feel pressured by their friends who might joke hey, you're Asian, why aren't you getting 100 in this calculus test that you clearly should have taken in 7th grade because you're supposed to be a genius at math? I can imagine that would feel really, really crappy. So no, I don't think it's a positive stereotype. And I think that the notion that stereotypes can be positive in that way is it's a bad attitude to have.
Mostly other Asian Americans that don't fit into the whole model student category, they get called out a lot.
I know that, I might have Asian classmates that are really good at math, but that doesn't make me, work harder to be good at math, to be better than them. I do math the way I do it, and they do math the way they do it, so yeah, it doesn't make me work harder.
Interesting. Well, now that we've gotten a sense of what the general Penn population thinks, let's turn over to the experts. Students and faculty trained for the sole purpose of busting the model minority myth. But for realsies. These are some of the most active members of the Asian American community here at Penn, and these are their stories.
Hi, my name is Afnan Muharram.
My name is Sini.
My name is Xiaolei.
Xiaolei.
John, Anthony Tran.
My name is Priya.
My name is Tran Thad.
Hi, my name is Sean. I'm involved with Asian Pacific Student Coalition.
Penn Collaborating in International Learning.
The Asian Pacific Student Coalition. I'm on the Asian American Studies Undergraduate Advisory Board.
I'm President of Salvo.
Currently, I'm chair of the Asian Pacific Student Coalition.
Last year, I had the privilege of being an Apollo facilitator.
I work study at PAACH.
I'm president of Chinese Student Association.
I'm currently one of the Apollo facilitators, which is a leadership program through PAACH.
So what I think the model minority myth is, I think it's really at the heart of the Asian stereotype, in that it characterizes pretty much every Asian as being well-off and smart, successful, high income.
Historically, in 1960, when a Newsweek article was released about Japanese students and saying how Japanese students appeared to do so much better than everyone else according to test scores and education, it was further perpetuated in the 1980s when a bunch of other big news articles and TV stations had more commentary about Asian American students, how they were scoring so high in SATs and how they're attaining such high levels of education, later socioeconomic status.
The model minority myth or thesis emerged in the 60s, especially as a movement to discredit the civil rights movement. In other words, the question was posed, if Asians can make it in the US, why can't others? Primarily African Americans at the time, which is obviously a very flawed approach to racial groups here in the US, and flawed in that Asian Americans hadn't made it. They had achieved some relative success, but hadn't in fact made it, and in many respects today haven't made it.
Asians were seen to be the minority predominantly who were achieving the American dreams. When they immigrated to America, they're the ones who were, I guess, more peacefully assimilating into the society, being successful in the job that they took, going to college and things like that.
Kind of almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think a lot of Asian Americans buy into it.
I think it persists today because a lot of people who are successful, who are I guess were able to break into American society, be able to cement a new life for themselves here. The children of these immigrants, they think it's a positive stereotype. These individuals are the ones who are propagating the myth, and mainstream society is more than happy to take it and use Asian Americans as an example for other minorities, saying, why can't you be like them? And while Asian Americans are like, yeah, why can't you be like us?
One of the reasons why I feel like the myth is perpetuated is because if you look at the Asian American population that is currently here in the United States, a large portion of them immigrated here in 1965 because of the certain select skills that they had, such as in engineering or basically white-collar skills that they had. And having said that, the white-collar skills translates into having better jobs or a stable job that allows them to provide socioeconomically well for their kids, who are able to have private lessons or go to SAT classes and afford all those things that will allow them to become successful, and in that sense kind of perpetuates this myth because they have the socioeconomic attainment to do so.
In a sense, I think that it's a bad stereotype because it really puts extra pressure on all Asians to succeed well, and if we don't do as well as we're supposed to, then we feel extra bad about it. But then at other times I feel like it is a good thing just because it motivates us to do better because we have a bar that we have to reach.
I personally find the stereotype to be very harmful just because I think it places a lot of pressure on people to reach an ideal that may not be something that they actually personally want or may not be able to achieve.
They're good qualities, so I don't think that we should try to change in that sense. But it's just a matter of how everyone sees us based on that stereotype isn't a good thing.
It's interesting because it's not necessarily something that you inherently want to refute. You don't want to say that you're not successful, that you're not smart, that you're not able to succeed, because those are things that we're told that we're supposed to do, that we are told that we're supposed to strive for.
The problem with the model minority myth is that it groups together a hugely diverse demographic and puts them all under kind of one myth, which can be very harmful for a lot of people.
Asians who don't perform as well as other Asians are often overlooked because of this model minority myth, this stereotype that Asians all do well. A lot of resources that are offered maybe to other minority groups aren't offered to Asians because of this stereotype, and thus people end up suffering because they don't have the support and help that they need.
I think it can also be good because in some cases it can almost act like a driving force a little bit, right? It depends on who you are, it depends on how your psychology is, but I could see situations in which a kid grew up and was like, you know what, this is what's expected of me and I'm going to accomplish that. And I could also see a kid grow up and be really, really negatively affected and harmed by kind of this expectation of him or her.
Asians are used as a typifying model of, these are the people who are successful, why aren't you successful? So it becomes Asians versus everyone else when you frame it in this lens, I suppose.
They do have an inner hatred or just not like prejudice against Asians, because I know like growing up, like other minorities would always make fun of Asians because they see us as doing better than them. So envy will arise from that, and the only way that they could try to like do anything to us is try to get us down by like, you know, bullying us and saying like and teasing us a lot.
In that kind of regard, you know, model minority myth is, you know, extremely harmful to, you know, any types of interracial community building. People see, you know, they don't see Asians as people they can relate with. They don't see them as, you know, people who have joined in the same type of minority struggle.
It sets us aside and it says that, you know, we don't need to work together because we don't have the same issues, when that's not true. And it's almost the complete opposite, that with other minority groups we all share the same issues, we all fight the same causes, and it takes, you know, understanding that it is a myth that the model minority isn't true for the whole, you know, Asian population, and that there are a lot of similarities and common factors which you know, minority groups can rally together and fight together.
You know, thinking back to maybe grade school when we had our forensics or speech and debate club, I remember a very distinct time when they were like, okay, well, we needed to pick board members, and it was kind of just arbitrary how they picked board members, and then they were like, okay, you are good at math, you're Asian, right? You can do treasurer, right? And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I didn't think twice about it. And I think when I really started to question it was after I got to Penn, and I started becoming a little bit more involved in the Asian American community.
The summer right before freshman year started, I joined the football team, and so there's 2 weeks of practice right before school starts. And you know, everyone's white or black, and I'm Asian. I'm the only person there. And you know, for the first 2 weeks before school, I really had to like prove myself that, you know, they're looking at me like, oh, who is this kid? He's Asian, he doesn't really belong here, he should be like studying, like doing something academic. And you know, it took me a while to like really prove myself that I had the skill to like, you know, to play football just as well as anyone else did. And you know, if I wasn't Asian, then you know, I don't think I would have faced that same kind of challenge.
I think once, like, my dad was driving me to school, and I lived in Manhattan, so like it was down First Avenue, which is like 4 or 5 lanes. And so we're driving on that second lane, and for some reason there's a truck parked on that second lane, which doesn't make any sense. So my dad decided to try to drive through that first lane, and the truck driver, who's like carrying, I don't know, sodas or whatever, he's just pushing like the push thing, cart, whatever, out, like going to the store to drop off his things, and he sees my dad driving into that lane. And like, this is kind of just like an average size African American man, and I guess he just stopped there, and he wanted to be confrontational for some reason or another. And I think he expected my dad to just kind of like stop there and kind of be submissive. So not submissive in like a weird way. So he just stopped there, and my dad like it looks to me, and he's like, you know, he kind of gives me that look like what's going on. But he like opens a window and he tries to be polite, like, what are you doing? Kind of get out of the way. And then the dude just starts being like, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I don't really remember what he said. But it came to a point where my dad was literally just about to go out and like try to fight this dude. That's when the guy actually backed down, right? He never thought my dad would actually like open the door and get out and like confront him. And I mean, we can just say, oh, this is a guy who just wants to like exert his authority, and it wasn't really a racial thing. But why I think it's a racial thing, just because like when he finally moved out of the way and my dad kind of drove past, he started like yelling racial epithets at us. And then that's the point where I got mad, and I like opened the window, I started yelling at him, and then he told me I looked like Goku or something.
maybe because like in high school I did take like all the APs and honor classes and did like leadership positions and all my extracurricular activities, and I still do that now at college. So that might be like might add to the myth because I am like, I guess, succeeding in the things that I am involved in.
I think personally I've also had this sort of guilt about it a little bit because I always kind of wanted to be that Asian girl who really broke stereotypes and did something cool and unique and different. And at the same time, I've always had a passion for science and a passion for medicine, and I've always wanted to be a doctor. And so I almost feel a little bit of guilt associated with that because I feel like I'm perpetuating the stereotype that, you know, Asians do really well in school, really like math and science, and then go into medicine and engineering, even though that's something that I really want.
I think ways in which I may have perpetuated it, you know, my hope is that I haven't to a large degree, but I think as a young person growing up, I certainly used to offer up this argument that Asians somehow had these very strong values, and that made us better. Quickly learned that that was coming from a place of privilege more than anything else. Rather than conflating this idea of our strong values with our privilege, we really have to deconstruct our own sense of privilege in this country.
Personally, my own motivation for going into medicine and for studying science is because I am interested in these fields. And at the same time, I do feel like I do define the myth a little bit because of my outside interests in things like art and design.
I also really like sports. I also am like super competitive. I watch football like every weekend. I play fantasy football. I tell crude jokes. I'm really loud. I'm, you know, things like that. And I think that those defy other myths in other ways. And I think the best that anybody can really do is just stick to their personality and stick to their hopes and dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think my career in many ways has been dedicated sort of to debunking the model minority myth as an advocate for students, all students, but particularly Asian American students. There was a time in higher education when there were limited or no services for Asian Americans in higher education. And part of my job was to advocate for students, Asian American students, and to make sure that the institution recognized the unique needs of the Asian American community. And the model minority myth obscures many of those needs.
Not to sound pessimistic, but I feel as though it's something that will always persist and always continue on.
It's really hard to kind of change a society-wide myth. You know, I was watching this TV show once before where they asked children to identify like the smart kids and the bad kids based on, you know, a person's race, and they showed them a picture of a smart kid, and these kids were 3-4 years old, and they pointed at him and they pointed at the Chinese kid or the Chinese labeled child and said, oh, he's a smart kid. So, you know, even at a very young age, these stereotypes are being perpetuated.
I think media is the biggest ways to reach people, and I think that Asian Americans are starting to become more prominent within different types of social media, and I think there's a lot of potential and growth for the Asian Americans in media in general, and I think that would be a great pathway for us to create stories, to tell our own stories, and to share them with other people, to show them, hey, like, this is actually a myth, like, this is not, you know, how everyone is, and, you know, being this quote-unquote model minority, like, it has a lot of negative effects.
I think the model minority stereotype tends to be the stereotype that is most often shown in the media. And, you know, the media can be very influential in how people not only see themselves, but also see people who they may not have met in real life.
I feel like it's something that's gonna take time, but it really requires a lot of education. And one way that, like, we get educated, like, subtly without even realizing it, and I'll say, like, I'm definitely, like, a victim of that, is, like, you know, through the media, whether that's, like, books or television or music, and, you know, when we don't see positive or very diverse portrayals of Asians, when that's, like, well, not necessarily us, but like people who might not be exposed to Asian Americans, like, that's, the more diversity they see in that, the more the myth will, like, start to disappear.
So I think talking to them about it, making it more acceptable to try new things, and taking away, I guess, a certain level of stigma associated with, like, non-traditional path will help people be more comfortable with who they are, and I think that's one of the ways to address the problem.
I say this to students all the time, that the knowledge that we gain here at Penn doesn't just belong to us, it belongs to the community. So once you leave, sort of our Ivy gates, that you give back to the community in some way. And that's not just to your own community, but the community at large.
So it takes an awareness of the rest of the population, the rest of the community, to realize not everyone is so well off. I mean, you can go downtown, go into Chinatown and see that, the myth is what it is. It's a myth that you can't generalize a whole population, a whole ethnicity, by this one stereotype that they're all models, that they're models for the rest of the community, because it's not true.
There's no way this myth is going to be debunked unless we actually talk to people outside of the Asian community, and having more dialogue and more communication with one another. I think that's how all stereotypes get broken down, to really discuss the issue at heart.
10,001, 10,002. Whew! Well, as you can see, not all Asian Americans fit into the model minority myth. We're a diverse community. We've got athletes, celebrities, and people who do nothing, like me. The point is, the Asian American experience cannot be defined by simple-minded stereotypes, and society has to see this too. So what can we do? It's on us to be unafraid of being different, to share our personal stories with others, and unite as one community. For as one community, we will finally be able to grab what is ours. We will be able to rise as one circle of power, rise like the sun in the east, and the moon in the west, and combine, finally can take what is ours. Hey, that's mine.
So what is the model minority myth?
So what, we hang out, so what, we drink tea.